This video today is all about pitching. I want to give you a technique that you can rely on. A technique where no matter what the circumstance, whether you're playing over water or you're down the stretch with a good score going, that you can rely on the technical ability that you're going to learn from this video. We're going to cover how the body works, how the wrists work, and how we best strike the ball for the most possible consistency. If you are new to the channel, please also consider hitting that subscribe button. There's a great golfing community now on the channel. Everyone's interacting, using the community page a lot more to tell me what you want to see from the channel. What tips do you need to help you improve your game? So all you've got to do, hit that subscribe button and you can be part of that community as well. So getting started with this tip, this is really important because I see a lot of golfers, they get static. And when you get static in the lower body, it can only cause you problems. Sometimes you feel, I think psychologically, you'll probably feel that, well, the less you move, the less that can go wrong. And that makes perfect sense if it wasn't in the golf swing. The golf swing, I always say, is a game of opposites. Whatever you kind of think is the correct way to play it, consider another way or the opposite way. Just play devil's advocate with yourself, because you're absolutely right. In normal walks of life, if we don't really move the body and we just make that action, not really that much can go wrong, can it? I'm only really using my shoulders and my arms and my upper body. Now obviously that can only go a certain distance, or I'm not able to consistently repeat that because I'm using the smaller muscles. You'll see coaches like Pete Cowan, Claude Harmon, Butch Harmon, David Ledbetter, they all coach in a similar way when it comes to the pitch shot, because using and utilizing the bigger muscles will 100% make you a better pitcher of the ball. So there's a few key fundamentals we've got to look at first, and that's going to be setup. It's always about the setup. If you get poor posture, you're likely to have a poor rotation and poor movement within the body. If you have a poor stance, you could potentially have poor weight transfer or reverse pivot or overbalancing or underbalancing. If you've got a poor grip, the club face can move. So the setup in all walks of the game is hugely important. So don't neglect setup, even on these much shorter shots. Sometimes with the driver, we spend a lot of time getting the width of stance and the spine tilt and the posture and go, yeah, we're ready here. And we get to these kind of shots. I see a lot of golfers just kind of brushing up to it and thinking, yeah, it's only there. I could kick it there. But it's not always the case, is it? So posture from this particular shot, we're still going to maintain a nice straight back, a good hip hinge from here, a little bit of knee flex. And what I often say to my players is actually get both big toes pointing at the golf ball and just left of it. So I would get my trail foot, big toe pointing at the golf ball. What that's done is opened up my lower body literally 5 degrees. And why I talk about where the feet point there is because it's going to help us rotate through the golf ball later on in the swing. But rather than just kind of saying standing open, because I also know that we take things very literally sometimes, and standing open now is there, that's standing open. Problem is you're 45 degrees open. So being a little bit more kind of precise with how open we actually are, I would say trail big toe at the golf ball, lead foot parallel. Okay, so now I'm literally open, I don't know, 5 or 10 degrees. It's a very small amount. I've got a nice hip hinge. Okay, so I've got my backside back over towards my heels a bit more, so I'm not kind of too straight and too much onto my toes. This is now going to give me the position to be able to make the rotation, making that body turn. Okay, back being nice and straight will also allow my shoulders to rotate around the spine. If I get a little bit lazy, which I actually tend to do as well, where the upper back just rolls over, let's be fair, that's comfortable, isn't it? We spend a lot of time in that position, whether you're at the desk or watching television, playing computer or whatever, you're kind of a lot more kind of relaxed here. But what that does, it limits how much your body is going to be able to rotate. And as a result of that, what your body does, which is very clever, it finds another way to help you. And if your body is stuck here, what will happen is you might start to add some lateral. Your body will naturally want to add some lateral movement because it feels like it's helping you out, all right? So don't allow the body to interfere, okay? So a good sound setup, feet position, good posture, good hip hinge. The grip, we want to try and make it as neutral as possible. I see a lot of golfers with an incorrect grip where the trail hand gets very strong and the lead hand gets over. Now what the problem that this has for chipping and pitching in particular is it lowers the bounce of the club and closes the face. So it creates that digging action into the ground, okay? Now, I would urge you, even if you don't want to change your grip for your long game, which I understand at the moment can be a really kind of difficult thing to change, please make sure that when you're chipping and pitching, you've got what you consider to be a neutral grip. Even if you have two grips, okay? I don't normally condone that, but the importance of these shots on your game for lowering the scores, I see it all the time on Skillest. It's way more important than what you can do with getting more distance off the tee shots. So if you have to have two grips, if you have to really weaken the hands on the wedge shots, then it's definitely worth going through it because you're now able to hinge and use the club face whilst maintaining the bounce, okay? So that's setup. That's a really important aspect of this. Now, the reason why setup is important is because we want to use the body. We want to use the rotation of the hips. I want my golfers, this is 40 yards. I want my golfers to be able to finish up nice and tall, fully facing out to the target with the hands and arms out in front of the body here. I want that nice high finish. Now, although this is only a short shot, a lot of golfers consider this finish as like a power move. Big finish must mean I came through the golf ball powerfully. Absolutely does not at all. What it means is you've come through the golf ball with a really good, deliberate and concise technique. If you can get into the right moves, your natural follow through for this shot will be round here. It will be a full finish. So good posture. I want you to really feel now that for this particular shot, I'm going to turn my back to the target and I'm going to keep my hands and arms wide of my body. Not too wide though, because you'll notice this right armpit is still closed, okay? So I'm not extending my trail arm. I'm keeping it in from the start. So you notice how the armpit's closed at setup. I'm just going to try and keep this position. So if I take my setup, if I just stand up fully vertically, that's how it looks, okay? That's my position. All I'm doing is tilting down into my posture. Now all I'm going to try and do is maintain that angle and just get the rotation away from the target. I'm going to turn my back to the target, going to turn my hips away from the target, not as much as my back, but they're still going to move, okay? You'll notice the angle between my lead arm and the club. I've not hinged it to 90 degrees or less. I've just kept it at what I would say is like a 120 degree angle, okay? Because now from here, we've got the width. We start to rotate back through the target and it's a lot less for the hands to release the club. That's all I'm releasing it. That's all I have to release it, okay? Because it's almost in position anyway. So this is kind of like your very much your dead arm swing where you're just using your body rotation through the shot. So you keep the width, concentrate on the rotation, and you'll see my finish. Oh, I'm so much better on golf tips than I am in real life. As I get into that finish position, I've got the rotation. My chest is actually pointing well left of my target here. I'm probably pointing 20 yards left of the target. My arms are right around my body here. I'm fully extended up. My lead leg's pretty straight, and my hips and my stomach are pointing towards and left of the target. So the technique wasn't fast, but it was longer and deliberate. We see a lot of good players as well do this, where they get panicky. You start to swing the club shorter, okay? And when you start swinging it shorter and you go maybe to here and then try and accelerate, you end up doing a couple of things. You get the miss hit, you get the miss strike. And what I mean, the two differences there is the miss hit can be like nicely high on the face where you want it in the middle, but very toe or heel side, or you catch it low on the head, or you can catch it fat. And that's because you've got really poor tempo and you're not in control of a deliberate movement. So what you can do at home, and this is a great drill to start with, very old school, but the best ones are the old school ones. Take your setup, imagine the golf ball is in front of your feet, just turn your feet a touch, so it opens up your hips. Shoulders will stay parallel to the target, turn your back away from the target and work up. And what you should notice there is as I'm working the club back down, I'm not allowing the club to go that way towards the golf ball. I'm encouraging it to go down towards my right foot. Now, as I do this, it helps me maintain posture here, which is really important. But as I come through the ball, I'm going to extend my lead leg, and you're going to feel like you're almost going dip, turn, up. Okay, so we're really utilizing the body's movement in this particular shot rather than focusing solely on the hands and arms. Okay, so we've got a nice rotational motion from the bigger muscles, which is going to encourage much more of a consistency in the ball striking. So understanding distance control from here is always going to be tricky, but I think when you've got a decent technique, you kind of know what you're expecting in terms of your strike. You start with a good technique, you get an understanding of how the ball flies and how it reacts once it actually hits the green. Then you can get to work on your distance control. A lot of golfers I see use rangefinders, the lasers, the watches from maybe this sort of distance. I personally would use it to get a front of the green number, and then I would use a bit of feel from there. Once you get out to kind of 50, 60 yards, that's when I would encourage you to know your distances better. But I think from here, it's about trying to get a range of feel from length of swing and a combination of speed, because knowing what you hit 30 yards is going to be a different 30 yards from hole to hole. You might be hitting uphill, downhill, from the rough, awkward lie. So there's a lot of different variables that come with this. Now, the reason why this technique is so good is because if I am in the rough now, my movement is with the weight moving towards my lead side as it normally would do, and then the rotation up is going to allow me to get through the rough. Whereas a lot of techniques, when you don't allow your body to be active during the golf swing, becomes very difficult to get the quality of strike when your ball is not in the best lie. So really important just to be able to use the right technique. It doesn't matter then if you're in thick rough, semi-rough, fairway, or even on a bit of a bare lie. Lovely height, lovely landing area, and a lovely reaction on the green. Guys, I hope you've enjoyed this video. I hope you've been able to take a lot of information from this, and hopefully you'll be able to apply it to your own pitching game. If I'm honest, as I'm talking through this video, I genuinely do learn a lot as well, because it kind of reminds myself of, actually, no, you need to do a little bit more of this. I need to do more of what I was just talking about then, because it becomes, as a decent player, it becomes very simple and very easy to get away from the basic techniques and start to kind of manipulate shots when you don't really need to. Get the really good core foundations of grip and posture and the setup with your feet, then start to understand the motion of the golf swing, using your back, using your bigger muscles, and that's not going to interfere with the golf club. You're not going to interfere with the bounce. You're not going to interfere with strike. Your relationship between club, ground and golf ball is going to be a lot more consistent, and with that drives lower scores. Guys, thank you for watching. Hope you've enjoyed the video. Hit the like, hit the subscribe, and I'll see you next time.